All right, we're going to get a little expertise on what we're witnessing here with Mary David. You've been monitoring everything as we have as well, and you tend to come on from time to time on these big issues. We want to talk about the politics of all of this, as we're hearing still the situation there in Santa Ana. Governor Newsom is suing President Trump. What do you make of that, and does this go anywhere?
And on what grounds?
Governor Newsom is suing Trump regarding the fact that the executive order cites a particular statute that requires that the governor be the one who initiates the use of federal troops being brought in, and that wasn't the case here. So you had Pete Hegseth as the one who was authorizing the use of the troops. So there's really a separation of powers issue where the federal government is stepping in, Newsom is arguing, where the states should have control.
And do you think that lawsuit will go anywhere?
Well, I think that it is going to be an issue for President Trump that, there are two issues here. One is the fact that in order for the statute to really be enacted, it's really only in three scenarios. That's, in a foreign invasion situation, or if there's an issue with local laws prohibiting federal laws from taking effect. But what Trump is going to argue is that this was allowed because of this being a situation of a rebellion. But for a rebellion, the courts are going to look at what was the level of force that was actually being used, what was the purpose of the protests, and how much force and threats of violence really were meriting the use of this being really a power that the president should be exercising.
So meantime, the president has also ordered in more National Guard and now activated some Marines in the 29 Palms area. Again, there's a question from a lot of legal eagles on whether or not he has the right to do this, and what kind of precedent has he set when he's going sort of, out of the norm in making this happen?
Using military troops to police U.S. soil is very rare. Now, in order to do that, there is an exception that's created under the Insurrection Act, and you do have President Trump saying that, referring to the protesters as insurrectionists. So arguably, he is saying that because there is a situation of so much unrest and violence, to protect the federal government, to protect the buildings and the federal executive function, these troops can be brought in. But the courts are, really going to have to weigh whether or not that was merited here. And against him is the fact that this is such a limited exercised power that has come into effect. President Bush did use it during the LA riots for Rodney King, but that was after the mayor and governor asked him to bring them.
Exactly.
And that was not the case here.
So now you have a mayor and you have the governor of Los Angeles and California saying, we didn't ask for this. We didn't ask you to do this. The police chief said the same thing pretty much. It would take a minute before they would get to the point where they said, Chief McDonald says, first I would talk to the sheriff, then we would talk to the governor, and that did not happen.
And the First Amendment and the 10th Amendment are both very heavily protected rights by the Supreme Court. So freedom to assemble, freedom of speech, freedom to have these protests is definitely a protected right that they are going to look at, and as well as the separation of powers issue here.
All right, Mary David, we thank you for your expertise on this one. We're still watching what's going on in Santa Ana. That's the end of our 8 o'clock news, but please stay tuned. LA Live News Tonight continues at 9.